Yesterday, Wendy Williams managed to throw a note out of her window in her care facility, and it was really a help me note. And police came, and an ambulance came, and they took her away. And one of the things they did at the hospital is they gave her a psychological test, which she scored 10 out of 10 on. Increasing one test doesn't do it, by the way. Increasing her claim of that she is in an unfair guardianship. This is reminiscent, of course, of Britney Spears, and something I know even more about, which would be Casey Kasem, because my friend Kerry Kasem fought to get guardianship of her dad from her stepmom. She eventually won. And that's another long story which you guys know. Joining us to talk about all of this is attorney Mr. Jeremy Rosenthal. Jeremy, how are you?
Good to talk to you, Simon. How are you?
I am good. So this was, I guess, kind of brave of Wendy Williams, right?
Well, what do you got to lose, right? I mean, you're in this facility of that's obviously not very pleasant for her. I mean, paper's pretty cheap, pretty inexpensive. So yeah, ball it up, throw it out there, and you go fishing and look what you caught. So a big media story at a minimum. But yeah, very bizarre twist here.
It is, particularly this psychological test that they decided to give her. One test does not determine the result of a guardianship, but it's still pretty powerful stuff, right?
I mean, it's interesting, and it makes us wonder whether or not she does actually have full use of her capacity. She was diagnosed, I believe it's called primary progressive aphasia with a frontotemporal dementia, which my understanding of these things, I'm a lawyer, and not a physician, but my understanding is that these things are irreversible. We also don't know what this test was designed to do, right? Is this something that we do basically when we go out and visit somebody in an emergency situation to see if they're threatening to hurt themselves or someone else? What are the boundaries here, and exactly what was this test trying to accomplish? I don't think it's going to be as comprehensive as things that the courts have heard in the past, but it's still pretty intriguing, right? To know that she's able to have the wherewithal to know who she is, where she is, who the president is, what the date is, whatever other information they ask, and it's a pretty basic test.
Yeah, it's a pretty basic test, but if she is as bad as they say she is, she shouldn't really have scored 10 out of 10 on it, should she?
Well, we don't know. So let's kind of revisit this and sort of do the ABCs of what a guardianship is, because I think it can be really confusing. If somebody does not have the mental wherewithal to govern their own daily affairs, then a court can step in. Somebody can file a motion. In this instance, it was actually her bank, Wells Fargo, said we're getting a lot of funny business here. A lot of her family members, I think in particular her son, they were concerned that maybe he was taking advantage, that maybe she wasn't all there, alerted the authorities. And in those instances, a court can appoint somebody to be a guardian for finances. And if it's severe enough, a court can appoint somebody to also assist with making decisions about where you live, where you go, who can see you. And essentially, they outsourced, in this instance, her daily life to somebody who is outside of her family because they were so worried about that. Now, when you're dealing with this type of person, it is a really interesting question to know where's the line of when somebody can no longer really truly govern their own affairs. Where is that line? And that's something we just don't know because the records in these cases tend to be sealed.
Right. Well, the one I know the most about is Casey Kasem. Because of what happened to him at the end of his life. And he was in a guardianship, not because of any mental decline, but because of physical health decline. It was originally a guardianship by his wife, and the wife wouldn't let him see his children. And so my friend Kerry his daughter. You know who Casey Kasem was.
Oh yeah. American Top 40. Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm old. I'm old.
Hey man,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Kerry went to court, and the judge ordered a doctor and a lawyer to go and visit Mr. Kasem. And they came back to the court and they said, Judge, Mr. Kasem is very clear he wants to see his children. And the judge turned around and said, well, I don't have the power to order that. And so you guys need to go in a room and figure it out for yourselves, which, of course, they couldn't, because that's why they were in court in the first place, which basically was the formation of the Kasem Cares Foundation. Kerry Kasem fought for guardianship. She won. It was too late to medically save her dad, unfortunately. But she won. But in the course of winning, she realized that she had the wherewithal to do it. It cost her over $100,000. And she also realized most people don't have that kind of money. So the primary function of the Kasem Cares Foundation, apart from fighting for people that find themselves in a similar situation, is to get on the books of every state possible a very simplistic adult visitation bill. So you can go to court without a lawyer. Sorry, buddy. And you can ask for a visitation at low cost to you. The judge can say yes. The judge can say no. You might be a crazy kid, right? So we want the ability for the judge to say no, but at least we want that done. I believe that is now on the books in 14 states. Iowa was first. The most recent was California. So it's spreading because it's really, really important. Part of how you abuse people is isolation.
Right.
You got to keep them away from people who love them.
And what you see a lot in these types of cases, and when I was a baby lawyer, one of the ways to make ends meet is I accepted appointments in guardian cases where the judge said, Jeremy, look into this. And you get families that are at war with one another, and we're all going to control what grandma does, right? And no, she loves me more, and no, we're going to kind of who's the right person to come in and control the money and the living situation and all of these things, and they can be quite nasty. One thing, and I wasn't aware of the foundation. I mean, that's a wonderful thing that they're doing. One thing that I think listeners should know, if you are involved in a situation where you have an elderly person that is having troubles making decisions, maybe they come in and out of lucidity, and you're worried about that type of abuse, courts do they actually do put a lot of resources towards the investigation parts of these situations, so the judge can get to the truth here. And there are independent safeguards. Wendy Williams, for instance, has and in guardianships that I've seen, the judge appoints what's called an ad litem. And an ad litem is somebody whose only job it is to look after the ward. That would be the person who's an ad litem in many ways is almost like not so much an independent referee as they are a spy, and they can come in and tell the judge, probably sometimes in chambers, just, hey, here's the dynamic. These people over here want this, and those people over there want that, and here's how we split this baby. And the good news here too is that Wendy Williams is absolutely an outlier. She's got a lot of money, and there's a lot of resources there, and there's a lot of reasons to fight over an estate like that. Unfortunately, if you've got family members who have a history of abusing things. Also, there's money in it for, unfortunately, the guardian is getting paid a big chunk of her estate. So even though the guardian may have sort of entered into this as sort of the good guy, the guardian can kind of get accused of malfeasance, which I think is happening here as well, because now they've got a financial stake in making sure that the ward remains the ward. So which makes throwing a note out the window kind of a good play if you're her.
Yeah, right. And clearly she was lucid enough to do that. It is a very sad situation always, but the thing you've got to watch for is isolation. I truly believe if you have a relative you're being kept from by somebody else, that should put up all the red flags in the world. All the red flags in the world. Now, you've got to be honest with yourself. Am I being kept from them because the particular relative actually genuinely has thought I'm a jerk for the last decade? Well, that's completely different to somebody who has not thought that for the last decade, and suddenly you are denied access to that individual. In the Kasem case, for example, the stepmom said, well, they just want the money. Well, they went on the record and said, we don't want a dime. We just want to see our dad. Powerful stuff. But they still had to spend $100,000 to get to see their dad.
Yeah, that's the tragic part. Yeah, yes. I mean, totally tragic aspects to this. Yes.
It really is. So if you're representing, I always like to give you cases that you don't get paid for. So you are now representing Wendy Williams. What's your next move after all of this?
If they already haven't, you're probably filing a motion for some type of reevaluation. My understanding of New York law, there essentially are three types of disabilities that can call for a guardianship under New York law. One is a temporary disability, which could be some type of temporary mental illness or perhaps a brain injury that's capable of healing. Another is a situation when you have a permanent disability that will only get worse, which I'm concerned that that's where Wendy Williams is. And the third is if you're a minor or there's some other incapacity that's kind of temporary. So what you would do is you would file a motion to have another evaluation. Again, all of these documents are under seal because they're highly personal, highly private to the ward in these cases. So we don't know how many times Wendy Williams has been reevaluated, and it's going to be the same judge. So it's going to be the same judge who is hearing these things again, and it may be that and I just kind of tell you in my my lawyer spidey sense tells me that this hearing is the same lawyers go in front of the same judge for the 18th time. Everybody rolls their eyes in the back of their head and they listen to Wendy Williams, and she goes off and says something, and they're going to turn to an expert. Probably it's going to be a more intensive evaluation than she got at the fire station, and they're going to say, what's really going on here? Okay. And I really would be shocked if something dramatically changed. My guess is that they've reviewed this a number of times, and I would be surprised if we hear anything different about her condition.
Jeremy Rosenthal, thank you very much. We appreciate it. If people want to find out more about you, where do they go?
Texas defense firm, and people need to be watching the Big 12 championship where the Red Raiders will be finishing higher than Iowa State. And yeah, so good luck to the Hawkeyes.
Hey man, look, this is the Hawkeye. This is the Hawkeye Nation station. You're preaching to the choir here right now.
Well, that you got the Big Ten, and you guys are they're special snowflakes in the Big Ten. We know that. But look, I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there on behalf of Red Raider Nation. You don't want to see us in the tournament. We're going to choke to somebody, but probably not Iowa or Iowa State. Maybe Central Florida in Orlando. They beat us.
Well, maybe we can talk about that tomorrow morning, brother.
Take care.
Jeremy Rosenthal, thank you very much. Always love you coming on. You take care. Have yourself a great rest of the day. And we'll chat again real soon, in fact. You be safe.